Hello there, Callie. How are you doing today?
I'm okay.
Okay. How was your week?
Um, my week was pretty good. Um, it's been about a week and a half since I got adopted, and so I'm adjusting to that and a new sense of permanency. But overall, things are great. I feel like I belong in the family. My little brother Jude is definitely happy that I'm finally adopted and that we have a place to call home and a place to call our family and that we're all together. Um, so thinking about those positive things, I'd say my week is going well.
That's good. I'm really excited for you. The fact that, you and your brother are finally adopted, which is something that doesn't always happen in the foster care system, especially when you're older. A lot of times it's less likely for you to get adopted, but I'm extremely happy for you guys, especially because the Adams foster family they seem like they've been treating you good throughout these past few months, right?
Actually, yeah. Even though I was a hard nut to
Mm-hmm.
crack, they stayed patient with me, and they didn't give up on me, and they didn't
Mm-hmm.
send me away. Like this is the longest I've been in an actual foster home. I've always acted out and got put out or got gone back to juvie
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. But they've really been patient. They really stuck with me and been understanding, and that's something I hadn't experienced before.
That's good. I'm really happy for you, and I hope that this new journey with your parents and your new family and your siblings is a really good one. So, how was your week? How's school? How's school going? I know senior year is almost here, and you're almost graduating.
Yeah, school's pretty good. I've brought my grades up.
Okay.
Um, I'm not so much focused on boys and stuff like I used to. I'm trying to be a good example to my siblings now. Um, the school year is coming to an end though, so there is a lot of stress about final projects and stuff like that. But overall, I kind of have an optimistic view of it all, and I think I'll end the year strong.
That's good. I'm really excited and glad to hear you say that you want to finish school and you want to be a good role model for your siblings. I feel like you've been a really good daughter as well as a student. So I want to commend you for that. I'm really proud of you for that.
Thank you.
So, as I mentioned the first session when we began, as well as last week, this is going to be the last session we're going to be doing. So, there's a reason why we come to an end. I feel that throughout these past 9 sessions, you've been able to reach the goal that we've talked about, as well as other things. So, I just want to let you know, just so that your mind is settled around it, that this is gonna be the last time that we're gonna meet for counseling. Of course, um, that doesn't always have to end everything else. And so, let's go ahead and talk about um, just how have these past sessions helped you out, maybe in the sense of helping you cope with the new family, as well as the adoption. However, how has that impacted you?
Um, well, when I first came, I know that I wasn't so easy to open
Mm-hmm.
up, and I had a lot of anger built up inside of me. But these sessions have really helped me to channel that anger into positive directions and goals that I want to have in life. Um, it's helped me realize that not everyone is out to hurt me, and it's also helped me cope with the new experience of having a family that actually wants me and that's actually being patient and won't be pushed away as
Mm-hmm.
no matter how hard I try to push them away. It's also helped me with my relationship with my father and still mourning the loss of my mother. Even though I did lose her at a very young age, I often found myself dreaming about her or just thinking
Mm-hmm.
about her and just having all this anger built up towards my father because he was involved in the car accident that took her
Okay.
life. Um, but this has helped me to kind of open up, and now I am on more than speaking terms with my dad.
That's good to hear.
I'm actually spending more time with him and my new sister. So all that is new for me, but I definitely feel like these sessions have been a wonderful outlet for me to not have everything bottled up. I think that was a lot that was fueling my
Mm-hmm.
negative actions was the fact that I didn't have an outlet or someone to really talk to when I had a lot of stress on me. But as time goes on, things seem to be getting much better. These sessions have really helped me a lot, and you've also been really patient with me, so thank you for that.
No problem. I'm just really glad and happy to hear that you yourself have even seen the progress that has been made throughout these sessions, as well as throughout your life, or this journey that you've been doing with the new family. And as well, I'm hearing that you've started to meet up with your father more, biological father more. So that's really good, That's good to keep in contact, even though the past event of your mother passing away could have been traumatic. And I hear you say that you would even find yourself sometimes dreaming about her. So, go ahead and tell me a little bit more on your past foster homes situations, as well as how those ended for you and your brother Jude.
Many of our past foster homes were good at first. And then they got bad. A couple times we did get separated, and so that didn't help at all with our relationship or our actions. Jude was always a pretty good kid. He never really acted out. But me, being older and being, like, when certain things happened, Jude was too young to really process it or remember it. And so for me, it was harder to forget those things and not to act out on it. But a lot of our foster homes, like I said, they were good for a time, and then I'd mess up, and then they wouldn't want me anymore. Or something that has been really hard for me to talk about is the fact that I had a foster brother who acted inappropriately with me, and for a long time I couldn't really talk about that because I knew, for one, nobody would believe me, and for two, no other foster homes with children in it would want me there, feeling as though maybe I was a risk or a temptation. But that was really hard for me to talk about because Jude wasn't there with me, and Jude is kind of like my rock. Even though he is my little brother, we're always there for each other. So it was hard because he would come in and, like, act inappropriately with me, and I couldn't tell anyone because who would believe me? And then on top of that, it's like, where would I go after that? And it's no longer me being the victim. It's me being treated as though, like, I'm bad. So for a long time, I held that in. And then Jude and I were moved into another foster home. And that foster home, it really wasn't good. It, like, on the outside, it may have seemed like it was okay, but behind closed doors, our foster father or foster dad, he would abuse Jude. And I think he would abuse Jude because he would catch Jude doing, like, some feminine things. And I guess he didn't really bother me because obviously I'm older and I can stand up for myself more. But with Jude, he would hit him a lot and just make him do certain things, like scrubbing the floors, or, like, just things that a little boy should not be forced to do. And he wasn't very kind, and that foster home ended really bad, where I was taken out of the home and Jude had to remain in the home. All the anger from, like, my childhood and my past experiences, and then what I was experiencing then, I just took it out on this home, because not only was he hurting my brother, who was the only family that I knew, but he was hurting me, and I had a lot of pain built up. And so I got sent back to juvie for destruction of property. One day I just saw these bruises on Jude, and I snapped, and I wrecked our foster dad's car with a bat, and I kind of just let it all out, like, let all my anger and frustrations out. So that was the foster home before the one that I'm in now, which I was adopted. And for me, that was really traumatic because Jude was still there after I was gone. And so I didn't really accomplish what I wanted to as the protector. I'm supposed to be the big sister to take care of my brother. And it's not like I had much proof to back up what I was saying. So that was just hard. But coming to this foster home with the Adams foster family has been good for me. It was rough, like I said in the beginning, but it's all worked out.
All right. So I just wanted to point out that just hearing you talk about the traumatic event that happened with one of your past foster siblings, which I'm really sorry to hear that you had to go through something like that. But I really appreciate you sharing that with me. You know, sometimes it takes a lot for a person to talk about an event where you're either being abused or where he was acting inappropriate with you. So I also can hear in your voice and just your body gestures the relationship that you have with Jude. It looks like it's really strong, especially because you refer to him as your rock, where he's the only family member you know. And since you guys have been through this journey together, through the foster care system together, I could see that you've kind of like took the mother role. Will that be kind of a way for you to express it as?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just, it just shows a lot about your character. It shows that you're caring, you're nurturing, and you just, family, it seems like it may have been rocky in the past with your parents, but at least with your sibling, with your brother, it's been really good. So how about you go ahead and tell me, I know you say you were in danger before with one of your past foster brothers. Are you in danger now, would you say?
I don't feel as though I'm in danger. I did have a few incidents in this family that I'm now a part of, but I've never felt like I was in danger with them. They always made sure to make me feel safe. The only time I did feel like I was in danger was by my old foster brother. He actually found out where I was living and things like that. That's the only time I really felt in danger. But in this family itself, they haven't really posed a danger to me, and I think that's a big part of what's made me grow so much, is that I didn't have that threat of, oh, they're gonna abuse Jude, or oh, they're not gonna accept us, or things like that.
Well, that's good to hear, to know that danger isn't in this family anymore, or at all, should I say, because it helps the fact that now you're adopted and you get to live with them now, and they're your family, like you said. This is your permanent home. How have you been able to, let me rephrase this differently. I know maybe in the past you might have, or maybe they haven't. How have you dealt with any suicidal thoughts or ideations, if they do apply to you?
I've never, even though I've gone through so much, I've never really pondered the idea of suicide, just because I had Jude to live for. He was always the encouragement, and I knew that while he was in that abusive foster home and I couldn't really do much about it, I knew that taking myself out of the situation or ending my life would not help him. It would just harm him even more. And he's kind of like what I've been living for, and why I've been trying to grow so much and make good choices, just so I can be a positive role model for him. So I wouldn't say that I've had suicidal thoughts or attempts. Things have been rough and they have been bad. But at the end of the day, like, my little brother he's been my reason for living.
All right. So just going along with that, I know you mentioned how you haven't had any suicidal thoughts or ideations, because your brother, Jude, was the one who's kind of like your motivation to keep going, especially because he's your only brother. Yeah. So how have you been able to cope with past events that could have led to those thoughts? Or how have you been able to cope with difficult situations that you've been in?
Well, back then I would cope by acting out. I would cope by sneaking out of the house or going to parties, or lashing out at people or just shutting people out. That was my way of coping and not making myself vulnerable again. But since coming to these sessions, this is how I've been coping. I've found this as an outlet. And I've also found it helpful in coping through the arts, whether I'm making videos or painting or whatever the case may be, or getting involved in like school activities. That's also helped me cope.
Okay, so kind of, I would say that your coping, like just hearing you talk about the past coping mechanisms you use, whether it be acting out, lashing out, or shutting people out, or being angry, to now just hearing you talk about now you're doing maybe videos, art stuff, like a lot of, to me, it sounds like you went from like really, not inappropriate, but unhealthy coping mechanisms to really good ones that could either help you academically, because I know projects, sometimes you could have used that coping mechanism in school. So it sounds like you've been even able to improve your coping skills.
Yeah, with your help.
It's like, this is all you. This is stuff that you've been able to do with yourself, you know? I'm just there to help you, guide you the way, and you just do the rest. So that's the achievement, everything you've done, the recognition goes to you because you've been able to cope with them. So I'm really proud of you for that, you know? Not everybody can go ahead and find new coping skills that are able to help them. So I know you said the family has been treating you well.
Mm-hmm.
And is there anything else you want to mention or add about how the family may be treating you or the siblings themselves?
That's a good question. My siblings have always been pretty nice to me.
Okay.
I didn't always feel like I belonged, but I think it's because I didn't want to belong.
Okay.
I didn't want the sense of permanency because I wasn't used to that, but I didn't know that's what I really needed. But I mean, we have our arguments just like any other family or any other siblings do, but it seems more healthy. It's not demeaning or derogatory, or there's no comments that will make me feel out of place or anything. I just feel like I'm in a normal family where I'll fight with my sister and it'll be a regular sister fight, like, hey, don't read my diary or don't borrow that without asking. But overall, I feel like as though the relationships have really improved. I'm no longer uncomfortable where I'm at. And especially since Jude loves the family so much, that's really was most important to me. He loves the family and he feels like he belongs, and our moms accept him. So I feel like everything's pretty good. And sometimes I feel like it's too good to be true, but it is true.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, you know, the whole too good to be true. It just shows how excited and happy you are. And I'm personally, as your case manager, I'm really happy for you for the fact that they've been able to adopt you and you were able to reach your goal with agreeing with your father, your biological father too. Because I know he was a little bit hesitant to sign the adoption papers because he wanted to keep you in your life. But I feel like you really made a good decision to go ahead and make that agreement with your father to meet, what was it, 3 times a month?
Yeah, he didn't really want to sign the adoption papers to begin with because he wanted to be a part of my life, and he wanted me to move in with him since now, like, you know, he has all this money and I have a little sister on my dad's side. But I just had to let him know how much I really felt like I belonged in the Addams foster family, and how much they loved me, and how obvious that was, and how I actually was happy there. And eventually he came to respect that, and we came to an agreement because I did have to get my adoption papers signed and everything before I turned 18.
Okay.
We came to an agreement that I would come and spend time with him and my sister about, I think it's 3 times a month. So we can still have that sense of family, and I can still have a father figure in my life. So far, that's been working out well. And we still maintain a pretty good relationship. It was rough at first, but...
Alright, so I can tell just how excited you are to even just mention that you have a family, a permanent family. Yeah. So once again, that's something that's really big in the foster care system when you get adopted. So I really feel the joy with you, you know? So going on with your father, I just want to talk about maybe a little bit if it's okay with you, on how you were able to live, or not even cope, but just like move on or live with the idea that your mother passed away. How was that ending of that marriage of your parents? Were you able to deal with that?
Um, at first, like from a little kid till recently, um, I wasn't really dealing with it in
Mm-hmm.
a healthy way. I had like I mentioned previously, I had a lot of anger and whatnot built up.
Mm-hmm.
But after talking to my dad about it and gaining more clarity, they didn't have the most perfect marriage or relationship. But I learned that no relationship is going to be perfect. But I know that he did love her, and he did experience a lot of guilt and sadness um, over her loss and feeling as though it was his fault. But after gaining more clarity and information regarding the accident, I don't blame him.
Okay.
I feel as though if it was going to happen, then it was going to happen. And although he was involved, I feel like as though he's suffered enough and he's paid his time. And right now, I'm just trying to move forward and think about the relationship we can build from now. But in the beginning, it was hard. It was hard because I didn't know everything, and there were things hidden from me, and I hadn't spoken to my dad in years upon years,
Mm-hmm.
or seen him, and so it was difficult. But I'm learning to cope, and I had that much needed conversation, and since then I've been able to kind of let go of the grudges a little.
Okay, so um, you mentioned difficult as being one of the feelings, or like how you would describe leaving your mother, or like your mother passing away. Sorry. Um, and then you also mentioned how your father was there at the accident. I know we talked about this a little bit before, and that now you feel like you don't blame him anymore for what happened. You feel like he's already paid his time. He went to jail, and you weren't able to see him for a while.
Yeah.
Would you describe the same situation, or maybe the ending of that relationship, the same as ending maybe your past foster homes?
Could you repeat the question?
So you mentioned how when your mother passed away, that's kind of like an ending of that relationship, or an ending of your parents' marriage because your mother's no longer present. And you mentioned how it was difficult, but you've learned how to cope with it. How would you compare that to maybe leaving your foster homes, like maybe the previous one where the father, where you were, where you had to go to juvie for damaging the property? How was that ending of that foster home? How did you feel? How were you able to cope with it?
I'd say they were very different.
Okay.
Regarding my parents, my biological parents, it was a confusing ending, and it was
confusing.
And it was painful. Versus in other foster homes, like my most recent one before this adoption, it was painful, but in a different way. I didn't feel the pain for myself before my little brother, and there was more anger, and so although the two are similar in a way, the relationship with my mom, my biological mom, and my biological father was a little more deeply rooted than the previous foster home, because I had been dealing with that for years, with not knowing exactly how it happened and blaming my father, versus the anger that I had built up over the years, and anger that I was experiencing in that foster home where Jude was being abused. Yeah, it was different. It was mostly anger and just anger, really. Okay. Yeah.
So anger in the last foster home, where just the idea of how badly he was treating Jude, the bruises you would notice, and how he would make him do tedious chores, like such as he said, scrubbing the floors. Was there any anger present in when your mother passed away, either towards yourself, towards your mom, towards your father, towards the situation itself?
Definitely anger towards my father. I also had anger towards myself, there was a point in time where I blamed myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, there was definitely anger, but there was more pain and confusion that I guess I intertwined with the anger.
All right. So now that we're kind of getting close to the end of our session, how would you describe, how do you see yourself being able to cope with the termination of this session? Because the reason we're terminating, as you know, is because I feel and I'm more than confident that you have reached the goal, that you're more than capable of now being able to cope with the new family. You mentioned new coping skills, so I feel really confident in you that no matter what happens, either maybe any future arguments, it's still a family, you know? And you mentioned it's going to be your permanent home and you finally feel at home. So how would you describe being able to cope? Like, how are you going to be able to cope with the termination of the session?
This has kind of been like an outlet for me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really been a piece of the puzzle and me finding myself and me growing as a person and improving. But I'm at a point where I no longer channel negative energy into negative actions. And so although I'm going to miss coming here and miss being able to, vent and talk about the things that I've been through or things that I am going through and how I feel, being as though I'm experiencing more positive things and I have a more positive outlook on life and I'm no longer in those past situations, I feel as though it won't be so bad. There are going to be times where I go through things and I probably wish that I could come and talk to you, but I think I can do it. I think I can cope.
Okay.
And I know that I have my mom to talk to anytime that I do need someone to talk to or some guidance.
Okay, so I hope you don't forget the new coping skills that you've mentioned before that you've learned, or maybe even new healthy coping skills that you'll be learning in the future. I know school's almost ending, so maybe there's not going to be as many projects, but I know you've mentioned before, I could even see the passion that you have for others, the passion you have for your brother, most definitely. And it's been shown in the kind of projects that you've done for the community itself, such as the one you were doing talking about the foster care system and how sometimes how it's not portrayed correctly, or like even how they're not taking care of it. I know you mentioned that in the past sessions. So just stuff like that to show how the passion that you have for that stuff. So maybe if you just carry that passion on with your other new coping skills or new projects, I feel like you've matured over the past session. So don't forget the change that's happened over your past few years, even these new sessions. I feel really good about the termination of this session because I know that you'll be able to manage yourself and your brother. So any last few thoughts, any last few concerns, or maybe anything that I could have improved as a case manager for this program, or maybe the agency itself?
No, you and the agency have been more than helpful to me, and I really appreciate it. I just want to know that anytime I do go through something, that maybe I can still give you a call every now and then. But you guys have really been helpful, and compared to the foster care agencies that I've been familiar with and things like that, like this agency is up to standard, and I would definitely recommend other foster kids to come and seek therapy or seek guidance from this agency, because if it can help to guide and change and motivate someone like me and to feel comfortable, then I know that it can be beneficial to other kids.
All right, so thank you for that. We always try to make sure that the foster kids that we have, the foster children, we try to give them the care that we have for you guys, because not only is that one of our priorities, but it's something that we want to make sure that even though you're not in like maybe in your biological home, you can find a new home. So I just want to go ahead and end with that note that you've been really good. And now that you're not in the foster care system anymore, and now that we're ending also because you've just been recently adopted, just think about the fact that, you're in a new family now. So I'm glad that you say that you can talk to your family or your mom. So thank you for that. And I hope that everything goes well for you and you have a new journey.
Thank you.